At first, she wasn't sure if she was simply having a bad dream, or if the scream she heard was what had woken her up in the first place. Dream or scream? God, she hoped it was just a nightmare. She didn't have her hearing aids on, so it must have been a dream, right? Reaching for her glasses, she slid them on and looked out the large window that made up almost the entire wall of her bedroom. Initial scans showed no signs of life, and the more she looked, the less she found. The same old ocean, the same old lighthouse slowly whirling on Quadra Island, the same lack of cars and people. Definitely a dream. Thank God. Dismissing the entire incident as an old lady's active imagination, she toddled to the washroom and toddled back to bed. As she fell asleep, the words dream, scream, dream, scream danced through her head like a child's nursery rhyme. Working the night shift for as long as she had, she knew just how much hell it could run on your body's internal clock. Around the same time as your body adjusted to the nightlife, your days off would roll around, and you became a morning person once again. As the sun has always chased the moon, she had always chased sleep. Whether it was 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., she learned pretty quickly to pick up sleep wherever she could. So when she woke up to a clock face reading 1:47, she had no way of knowing if it was almost 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. A quick glance out the black slate window answered that question, and before she'd even stood up, she felt restless. Felt like she had been asleep for a few years instead of a few days. Felt like every muscle in her body needed to be stretched as soon as possible. She'd always been what her father called an active sleeper, and what her sister more simply called a kicker, unless she was really exhausted. Unless she had been up for 48 hours instead of just 24. On those nights, she slept like a corpse. Motionless. Last night was definitely one of those nights. Working nights and living with other people, you often feel like a burglar in your own home. Even something as simple as a morning piss had to be done slowly, carefully, and as silently as she could. Not because she was living with some ogre family of assholes who would give her hell for waking them up, but simply because she loved them and didn't want to disturb anyone. Clad in PJ pants and a Dick's Fish and Chips t-shirt, she crept out into the hallway and closed her bedroom door as lightly as possible. She cringed when the bathroom door creaked open. She cringed at the loud slosh of the toilet flushing, and she cringed as she closed the door to her bedroom again on the way back. Every step she took, every sound she made, she was painfully nervous. Even with that nagging, nervous feeling, she crept her way out onto the balcony with her old pal Barney, the big purple bong, and wondered what to do with her free evening in between puffs. All of her friends and family were sleeping. All of the stores were closed, and if she were to stay home, she wouldn't want to leave her bedroom any more than she had to. So, in summation, The options are movie/video games at home, or brave the wilderness and take a walk down by the ocean. The stoned parts of her, the smoke now warmly nestled into her bones, advised her not to leave the small poster-covered box she woke up in. But those same lazy bones demanded to be stretched, and the idea of a late-night walk quickly won out as her best option. She put on some real pants, an old bleach-dyed hoodie, and packed the bowl of her small glass pipe carefully before leaving. In her experience, there were few finer things than smoking weed and watching the heavy blue-black waves endlessly lap at the shore. As she left, she made her way down the condo's long beige hallway, down the elevators, past the small row of metallic boxes the tenants used for their mail, and out the building's front doors. As soon as she was outside, she could feel the cold, wet air work through her whole body like an internal air freshener, chasing after the smoke and replacing it with a cool, brisk sort of calm. Standing outside her own front door, there were two options. If she went left, she would have to tackle the hill. The only reason anyone would want to walk up such a steep hill was to get downtown, which officially begun at the hill's opposite side. But if it was the sea walk you wanted, a right turn would lead you to a walking path that would take you straight out of town, if you were so inclined, or straight to the liquor store and back if you weren't. Her little walks usually didn't last more than an hour, and she decided she would turn around at the liquor store if she didn't tire out before then. With one final deep breath, she started her walk. During a big storm, the same ocean that sat unthreatening out front of her window for years could throw entire trees onto the highway. But tonight, the waves rushed the shore so calmly, it was instantly soothing. As she went, she started to get lost in the hypnotic dance of the ocean's waves, the heavy softness of the sound. Soon enough, she was breathing with that sound, and her feet seemed to carry her entirely on their own. She walked past the large stone monument labeled 49th Parallel, past a few 60-plus condos and buzzing bright hotels, and by the time she was 20 minutes or so into the walk, she felt like she was floating. She was in the zone. This was her own form of meditation, and she loved how she could get so lost in it. This was the best choice she had ever made. This was the best feeling she had ever felt. And the only thing that could make this any better would be if she was able to make her way closer to the water, past the largest and sharpest rocks that were closest to the shore, over the countless logs, sticks, and branches that have washed up over the decades, over the green and brown, stinking line of plant life that marks the tide, and finally, over the mostly smooth and slippery rocks that were closest to the water. Sure, it sounds like a laundry list of obstacles, but she had been doing it for her whole life. She had done it stoned and hungover. Had she fallen on her ass at least once or twice? Of course. Everyone has, but as she made her way closer to the water, she wasn't worried about falling in the slightest. The way she was feeling right now, she could start to believe she was immortal. Before taking her first step down onto the rocks, she tested the log with one foot. When she put her weight on it, it wobbled slightly from side to side. A bad sign, maybe, but not always. She gave the log a little more weight, and the previous nervous shake had been fully anchored. She had seen logs like this before and felt good about her first stepping stone. Your brain has a funny way of telling you what's safe to stand on and what's a risk. And pretty quickly, she had a 3 stepping stone plan for getting over the rocks. First, the log, then that big rock, and from there it would be a simple matter of hopping onto the sand. Log, rock, sand. Log, rock, sand. Like the steps of a waltz. Child's play. At first, everything went perfectly. The log held her weight just as she knew it would, but as soon as she hit the rock, she knew it had never really been a rock at all. The hollow metallic crunch mixed with the sound of breaking glass let her know before she even hit the ground that her big rock was actually a big bag full of empty cans and beer bottles. As she fell, she had time to feel the shards of glass work their way through the soft rubber sole of her Crocs and into her feet. She had time to hear the sound of her own leg breaking, to feel it. A heavy gunshot crack muffled by the sound of her own flesh. It sent waves of pain up her entire body, and she could feel her jaw snap shut as she was flooded with white-hot agony. Already full of so much pain, she barely noticed when she landed amongst the rocks, breaking on them instead of bouncing off them, until she looked like a woman who had fallen from the sky. A woman who had been through a rock tumbler. A woman who now didn't make any sound whatsoever except for a low, rasping breath of someone deeply asleep. "10 minutes later, she would wake up. She would squint through the darkness and finally be able to see the twisted shape of her own leg for the first time. And, finally, she would scream